The co-founder of Sutton Friends of Palestine, Tommy Oliver, has been accused of anti-Semitism by Tory councillor Tom Drummond. On January the 27th, Sutton councillors endorsed a petition demanding the withdrawal of investments from companies involved in the occupied Palestinian territories, including East Jerusalem, or accused of contributing to human rights abuses in Gaza. During the meeting, the Times published an article featuring comments from Drummond, who condemned the petition as, frankly, at its core, anti-Semitic, and called its timing an absolute disgrace. His remarks were made despite the fact that the meeting date, Holocaust Memorial Day, had been scheduled months in advance by the council, not the petitioners. The significance of the date was explicitly acknowledged in the petitioner's speech, which also expressed solidarity with Holocaust remembrance. During the meeting, several councillors praised the 5-minute speech delivered by Tommy Oliver, the teenage co-founder of Sutton Friends of Palestine, in support of the petition. However, Drummond had already given statement to the Times, which published their article while the discussion was still ongoing. The article singled out Tommy Oliver by name, linking him to Drummond's accusations of anti-Semitism. This is Tommy giving his speech at the council meeting.
I'm Tommy, co-founder of Sutton Friends of Palestine. We're a grassroots community set up 11 months ago to oppose the dehumanization of Palestinians. As humanitarians, we condemn all attacks on civilians by both Israel and Hamas, as well as decades of Israeli colonialism going back to the 1948 Nakba, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Our petition reflects the deep concerns of many local people, including a number of Palestinians in Sutton who have lost family members in Gaza. We're relieved that this Gaza ceasefire has finally entered its first phase, with both Israeli and Palestinian hostages being reunited with their families after being kidnapped and held without trial. But many are rightly worried about the ceasefire being broken. In the last few days, Israel's clearly broken ceasefire conditions in Lebanon, and Donald Trump has openly pushed for the total ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Israeli military and settler violence has escalated in the occupied West Bank, as Israel launched airstrikes and incursions into Jenin. Today was the soonest possible date for this to be discussed. And it's important we do this as soon as possible because it is a life-saving petition. Today is also Holocaust Memorial Day, a day that serves to remind us all of the consequences of dehumanization. The Palestine movement stands for peace and universal human rights. It consists of thousands of Jewish people in the UK, some of them Holocaust survivors, and together we defend the commitment to prevent genocide. Sutton Friends of Palestine stands against all forms of anti-Palestinian racism, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia because we know where it leads. Sutton Friends of Palestine stands in unwavering solidarity with all oppressed peoples, no matter their religion or the color of their skin. We learn the lessons of history and we say never again for anyone. Thank you.
I mean, that's hardly a statement that includes any sort of anti-Semitism. Now, Tommy hasn't been offered a right of reply, so I caught up with him earlier and I first asked what happened at the meeting.
We presented our petition of 1,800 plus signatures that we've been doing for a few months. As lead petitioner, I was invited to give a 5-minute speech to the council. I outlined why we're doing it, the ethical reasons, very obvious. We don't want to be complicit in a genocide. And because the debate happened to fall on Holocaust Memorial Day, I commemorated that in my speech and I said, never again for anyone. The Tory councillor who spoke, he wasn't the same one who was contacted by contacted the Times, but the one who spoke decided to essentially say that it would not be passed through the pension committee, which means he thinks that we should stop it now at the council debate, apparently. So the Lib Dems and Labour voted it through. The Tories did not. There was quite a bit of booing, as you'd expect, but it passed and we celebrated and left.
Now, when did you hear about the news that the Tory councillor wrote in the Times? And did anyone reach out to you for comment?
It was around midnight the day of the debate, and I was sort of scouting Twitter to see if anyone's posted anything. It turns out the Tory councillor who spoke in the debate had posted a link to the Times article, obviously very proud of it. And I read it, I was like, this is a load of rubbish. And right at the end of the article, it did say Sutton Friends of Palestine was contacted for comment, but it absolutely, I have the contacts for Sutton Friends of Palestine. Not an email, not a DM on any social media, nothing.
I mean, you're a 19-year-old young man. It's brave to stand up for something such as this. And here we have a Tory councillor colluding with the media to smear not just you as racist, but essentially the council. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I've come to expect it. I mean, after what we've seen in the last few years of
Mm.
Palestine activists, the smear campaign with Jeremy Corbyn, what you mentioned the other day on your show about the Green Party, I mean, it's just so expected now, and so this is going into this. I absolutely know if I do anything that's meaningful to support Palestine, something like this is going to come up, and well, that doesn't mean we're going to let it slide when it does.
I'm actually quite interested to know, has there been sort of any fallout from this? Has anyone reached out to you in support, and has anyone actually attacked you for this as well? Because at the end of the day, I mean, this is a Tory councillor, well connected, writing in a big publication, and you are just a constituent. As I mentioned, you're a young man. There's clearly a huge power imbalance here. So, what's the reception been like following this this incident?
There's a lot of outrage from those in our borough who are sort of politically aware. There's a lot of complaints, as far as I know, going to the council about this conduct. There's anger from the the Lib Dems and the Labour councillors. The way this has been conducted is ridiculous. With constituents are trying to present a petition, and they get smeared in the national media. It's going to discourage people from presenting petitions in future. There's been nasty comments from people online who've seen the Twitter or the Times article and posted on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Posted on Twitter, horrible things about Sutton Friends of Palestine, horrible things about me, and it's just like, well, this wave of hate has been invited by this Tory councillor who's got all of these contacts. And we also had UK Lawyers for Israel smearing us, comparing us to Nazis because of this petition calling for ethical divestment.
We've covered this on Turn Off so many times. It hurts communities. It hurts the Jewish community, actually, I think, when we do this. But I understand that you and the council have put in a complaint against the Conservative council. Can you talk me through about that? Just briefly go over this complaint towards the Tory councillor.
Yeah, it really does focus on the fact that, I mean, we've engaged with a democratic process. We put the petition forward in mid-November, and this article makes it out as though this petition, we chose the date of Holocaust Memorial Day for it to be discussed. We did not choose the date, so that's, quite frankly, that's defamatory to say that we did, or to even imply that we did. The complaint focuses on that, but also on the fact that before it had even been discussed at council, this article went live in the Times to essentially intimidate us and intimidate any constituent who might put forward a petition that the Tory opposition disagrees with. And it's just not how democracy should be done on a local level, especially.
Tom Drummond is the Tory councillor. If he was here right now, what would you say to him?
I'd ask him whether he well, no, I know he did it on purpose, but I'd ask him why he felt it was necessary to claim that this local group that's made of local people who are, some of them have relatives who have died in Gaza, why he thought it was acceptable or even strategic to go to the national media and to call us out for doing something that we didn't do. And I'd ask why he thinks it's disrespectful to even the fact that this did fall on Holocaust Memorial Day. We commemorated that, and we said it's important that we remember past genocides and that we use the memory of past genocides to fight future and present genocides. But I'd have to ask him, why don't you see the importance of that?
Now, obviously, it's very expensive, but you say that he's made defamatory claims in the article. Have you considered potential legal action, or those supporting you? Is this an avenue you're willing to take?
Well, I haven't looked into it fully yet, but I suppose there's grounds for it, considering that the things that were published were harming my reputation, the reputation of the group, and were false. So yeah, we have had discussions about taking legal action, and we're still considering it. Um, Groups like UK Lawyers for Israel, I know they've threatened legal action against councils, but they are apparently all talk and no bite. But as local people who actually have a case, I suppose we could do a bit of legal action.
Do you have any advice for anyone else if they find themselves in a similar situation? We know that for years, especially since the 7th of October, there has been a lot of weaponization of anti-Semitism. It's from people who are well connected against those who are not, and it's obviously an uphill battle. But is there any advice you give to these people? What should they do if they find themselves in a situation like yours?
Well, the first thing that needs to be said is that hopefully they would already be in a grassroots community, but if not, you need to build a grassroots community, get local connections, because the fact that we're able to connect with each other and we've all got different bits of advice and expertise, that's really supportive. And if anything comes someone's way like this, then you can really make sure that you utilize these connections that we have, with what few connections we have as local people to local politicians. But also, don't be scared. It's fine. It's something that's going to happen. We got to deal with it. If we want to, help people in Palestine, this is something we're going to come up against. But also, I think reach out to people who will report on stuff like this, like yourself. The Times isn't ever going to publish something like this, what you're doing. So reach out to independent media.
Now, has Councillor Drummond responded at all? Maybe not personally to you, but is he aware that there is a complaint against himself? Does he know anything about this?
Well, the complaints were sent out yesterday. Not sure how fast it's moved through, but he'll be made aware, if not already, then in the coming days.
Now, that was Tommy Oliver, the co-founder of Sutton for Palestine. What a bright young lad, a really confident young man. It must be quite nerve-wracking to do some speech in front of the council, so really, really good for him. But what I find really astonishing is that a well-connected Tory councillor can just smear a young man of being a racist, even saying Nazi. Samuel, I want to bring you in on this. I mean, what do you make of the fact that Councillor Drummond can just get in touch or have someone get in touch with a national paper and make up lies and just go about their day?
Yeah, it's disgraceful, isn't it? It's and that young man spoke very well, by the way, in solidarity with the Palestinians. Well done to that young man. Um, I wish I could say I find it surprising, but looking back at the history, obviously, of Jeremy Corbyn and the whole movement and how that movement was smeared as anti-Semitic, it doesn't really come as that much of a surprise. I think at this point we can expect to find, voices and mainstream voices in the media very hostile to people who speak out against the genocide and the ongoing ceasefire, which actually Israel is not actually respecting, by the way, at the moment. But I think that unfortunately, this is very much expected. I watched for years, and you watched for years and years, as the mainstream media smeared us as anti-Semites, just for speak. And back then, obviously, this is pre-October the 7th. We were just calling out the atrocities and human rights abuses that Israel routinely carried out on Palestinians, and that deemed us anti-Semitic. Even things as such as the IHRA definition. I'm sure you remember when that whole conversation was going on about whether that was anti-Semitic or not. It's just a complete portrayal of the left, portrayal as left as anti-Semitic, when in actuality we're just trying to stand up for Palestinian rights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's this sort of boy who cried wolf situation, which is that I don't think people are going to buy it anymore, especially since the 7th of October. I think people's consciousness have changed, and the sort of the anti-Semitism smears, I don't think are going to wash on people like they did to Jeremy Corbyn between 2015 and 2019. But the worry it's been for me the entire time when the left was basically being tarred as anti-Semitic is that it hurts Jewish people because you're trivializing some real hurt, some true racism, and anti-Semitism is the oldest form of racism. You're trivializing that, and it's only going to hurt Jewish people.
That's completely correct. That was on the forefront of my mind during those years as well. That hang on a second, there are actually vile anti-Semites out there who, as we can see, who are back publicly doing Nazi salutes and actually being defended by the ADL, which is interesting. But this is exactly to the heart of the point we were talking about. Yes, when you routinely cry that this is anti-Semitic and that is anti-Semitic, when they're simply just advocating for Palestinians, then you get to a situation where now, you get real hardcore Nazis who are seemingly becoming more bold about telling us exactly who they are. And this moment is exactly very frightening because of those reasons. So I think, this constant portrayal of people who see Palestinians as humans to be anti-Semitic is deeply problematic. And as you mentioned, I think it's the dangerous moment at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a really good point about the ADL. They defended Elon Musk.
Yes.
And I thought these people were really concerned about anti-Semitism, and anti-Semitism still, 99.9% of it comes from the far right, and you've got Musk doing a Nazi salute, and suddenly they're apologizing for it.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I just wanted to quickly ask if you had seen, because there had been some polling and it showed about what the public perception on what the parties were in terms of their
Yeah.
anti-Semitism. And it's crazy to see that parties like Reform are viewed as being way less anti-Semitic than Labour, and the Green Party, it's like an upside down world.
We covered this actually a couple of days ago. The Green Party, according to this specific poll from Campaign Against Anti-Semitism,
I might have watched it from your show, actually. I might have watched it.
Yeah, they say that the Green Party, what is it? They're the most tolerant of anti-Semitism. They're viewed that way. And 72% of apparently Jewish people who filled out this poll think the Green Party do so. And then you're right. You look at Reform. You look at UKIP. And they're on the lower end of the scale. And I'm thinking, so more right-wing parties are seen as less anti-Semitic than left-wing parties. Something clearly doesn't add up. And we know this is more to do with Israel than it is to do with anti-Semitism. I thought it was really interesting as well that Councillor Drummond's one sort of line of attack against Tommy Oliver and the council was that it was on Holocaust Remembrance Day. Now, of course, the petitioners didn't decide that. That was automatically selected for them. But even if they did select it, you're going to be offended that you're calling out a genocide on a day when you're supposed to remember and say never again. Because I know people would say, okay, if you want to do your pro-Palestine thing, maybe do it on another day. But the entire premise of never again is to say no to genocide, ethnic cleansing, and Holocaust. And there seems to be no better day than Holocaust Remembrance Day to talk about Palestinians.
I think this point I'm about to make really segues into this perfectly. But are you familiar with a commentator called Vanessa Feltz? I think is that her?
Yes.
Vanessa Feltz.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, she started off as a celebrity, didn't she? And sort of moved into. Honestly, I think she went on Talk Radio or LBC.
Honestly, I was in an Uber the other day, and I don't listen to LBC. I don't really listen to radio that much, but it was on, and Vanessa Feltz was on, and she was talking about, I think it was on Holocaust Remembrance Day, and she rightly started off talking about how dehumanization starts off, and how we need to be eagle-eyed and look out for it. And then she used the day and that moment to then now start shitting on Palestinian supporters. She used that opportunity to then say there are some who actually think what's going on in Palestine is a genocide. Well, actually, you need, and it's just this absolute refute. First of all, she's using this to downplay another genocide. How disgusting is that? And secondly, it's just this refusal to acknowledge the clearly genocidal statements made by Israeli government ministers.
Absolutely.
It's not a secret. They've been very open about it. When the war, quote unquote war, started, they made no qualms about shutting off food, electricity, water to people in Palestine and to Gazans, which is actually a war crime. So I think to hear her use the Holocaust Remembrance Day to then talk down and belittle people who stand up for Palestinians, I think it was absolutely disgusting.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.